Um, so we are live. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's AfricodeX session. Um, Apologies for the delay. We had some technical issues and just had to go find a way about it. So today we'll be discussing how to maximize opportunity as an international student. Um, with me here today, I actually have Ledo. Ledo is she's a senior at Drexel University. She's currently studying computer and security technology, and with a minor in human computer interactions. She's very passionate about diversity and inclusion in tech, and she's helping students breaking out to her comfort zone. So particularly, I think she's going to be a very great person or very great individual who can actually talk about the challenges, experience, and or the whole overall ideology she has faced in tech. So welcome, Lady, with me today. Hi, Lady.
Hi, Kinsella. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the entire Africode team. It's so great to be back. I was actually a mentee some years ago, so I'm really honored. Thank you all so much.
Awesome. That's an interesting testimony. I do you mind introducing yourself? I know.
Yeah, I think you did. I think
sure
you pretty much. Yeah, I think you pretty much said most of what I even had, like in terms of like my introduction as well. I think before, I'm always very like wary of giving myself titles. I think first and foremost, before I'm a senior or anything, I'm a child of God. My faith is very important to me, so that's how I love to be identified first and foremost. I really have passions when it comes to diversity and inclusion. I really love product management as well, and all things personal and professional development, which is why opportunities like these are ones I don't like to miss. I like to take advantage. I have been greatly poured into in my journey as an undergrad student, so it's always so humbling and really exciting to be able to give back what I've been able to learn from other people. Just a brief one in terms of like experiences. So in case people have specific questions about like my experience, you have an idea of what I've done. My first internship was software engineering research assistant at a lab in NYU, that's New York University and Drexel University. So really working in that AI, machine learning and security space. And then my second co-op, or my second internship rather, I was working as a quality assurance intern at JP Morgan and Chase. That was shortly after that, the pandemic hit and we all went into a virtual world. Third, I was a product management intern at Above Board. I was a startup based in New York, but thankfully I was working remote. And then just this last summer in 2021, I was also a product intern at Intuit. And after graduation in about 2 months, thereabout, I'll be heading to Oracle as a product manager. So clearly I'm more into the product space, even though my major and background is in security. So happy to answer any questions about product management, diversity and inclusion, being an international student. And I'm curious to hear the questions you have for me.
So awesome. So I know you've prepared some slides to share with us for today. Do you want us to go through them first, or do you mind us asking questions first?
I think you ask me questions first, and then if there's anything else I haven't shared, I'll touch on it.
Oh, okay. So for me, some of the questions that we actually prepared was knowing you're an international student. So since when have you actually become an international student? How has the whole experience been in general?
So I came to the US July of 2017. My program actually wasn't starting until September. So that's one tip I'll definitely say. Try not to come in too early. I made the mistake of coming too early. So when I actually came into the country, I had to be admitted on a like tourist visa instead of my student visa. And then I had to leave the country and then come back within 30 days of my school start date. So officially, I became an international student from September of 2017 up until now.
Oh, Okay. So how easy was it for you to go through the application and the whole process of becoming an international student? What country in Africa were you coming from, or what country,
Yeah,
sorry, which other part of the world are you coming from?
yeah, absolutely. So I'm Nigerian. I'm
Okay.
guessing most people here are, or quite a couple of you here are as well.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, thankfully, my high school in Nigeria was actually an American one. So I was already introduced to my counselors, the whole process, at least for like my up until 12th grade, which is I would say SS3, which is the end of one secondary school education or high school education, was within like the American curriculum. So I was already introduced to the Common App. The Common Application, I believe, is how, I don't know if it's changed now, but that's pretty much how you would, enter in the school you wish to apply to, submit all your documents and all of that stuff. So thankfully, I had my counselors dedicated to, working with me and my other classmates, who were also applying to universities. So that also really helped. I think I had a bit of an advantage because my older sister was already in college. So I was able to just have some understanding of at least how it worked. But in terms of like the process. So yeah, I would say I think other ways people do this is maybe through an agent or through like some other programs, which is still really helpful. But for me personally, I think my school really helped make that process a bit easy for me.
Oh, awesome. I guess we actually lucky. So my next question is about the challenges you faced. I know
Mhm.
the whole ecosystem in Nigeria and the whole atmosphere in Nigeria is
Yeah.
quite different from your new location. So what was the first cultural difference you encountered, and what are the other challenges like you also faced?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm just going to take a moment to structure my thoughts, if that's okay.
No problem. Take your time.
Okay. So I kind of have three challenges here. If I think of more, I'll share more, but I'm just going to like start off with these three. I think the first thing for me was how different the education system was. So I'll give an example. I took calculus my last year of high school. This was back in Nigeria, and I it was I had to take it again for my first year because I was actually that's something else I didn't mention, but I actually switched my major. So I was initially on a pre-med track. My plan was to go to medical school when I veered off into tech. And I can talk more about that later, but let me just kind of stick to the question at hand. So everyone in that engineering program had to take a math course, and usually it was calculus. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I've already done this course in Nigeria. Like it's going to be a breeze. I'm going to get an A, and it'll be good. And I started taking the course, and it was really tough, right? Even though the material was familiar, the concept in which it was taught was very different, and I got to see that the way I had learned things in Nigeria is not the way my professors here are teaching and sharing content and material. So I really had to adapt to knowing that it's not just about passing, getting an A, but it's truly understanding the material, which I think back in Nigeria, I was, there was this pressure to just do well and like get really high grades. But here, I could see that my professors were more interested in how I was absorbing the material than I was just doing well and getting an A, if that makes any sense. So I really had to like unlearn and find a more suitable way to learn holistically. Then secondly, I would say another challenge I had was in terms of being more conscious of my race. So in Nigeria, I've never been referred to as black or anything. Like I've never been conscious of my skin color. But I think coming here, that was something I really had to, it was pointed in my face in so many occasions, like, oh, you are a minority, you're female. And then when you think about, when I switched into tech, that was even more pronounced, which is why that was really where my passion for diversity and inclusion stemmed from was, you know, really seeing that this was a problem. Like there are many buzzwords we just hear of growing up, like oh, diversity and inclusion, but until you are in that space and you feel that gap and you feel like, oh, I'm actually different from the majority, it's just a different experience all in all. So I'll definitely say just being more aware of my blackness, quote unquote. And then lastly, I would say the last or the third one that comes to mind is just I think how lonely it can get. So a bit of a disclaimer for me. I came to a university in an area where I knew no one. So Philadelphia, I knew no one. Even though it was on the East Coast and I did know some family friends, I wasn't specifically in a state that I knew more people in. Let me just put it that way. So coming here, and I thought I was fine because I'm an introvert, or then I was an introvert. I think now I'm more of an ambivert, but then I was like, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to be by myself. But I think just being in a different country, I wasn't prepared for how lonely I would get. I think this is just my experience in Nigeria. Like even if I would be by myself, at least I was around familiar people, friends, family, cousins, things like that. But here, and also being in a place where people are not always very forthcoming, and this is different for different people. I'm guessing different states have different experiences within the US, but at least like where I was, you really had to put yourself out there to to feel like you belong into a community or like you belong within a circle. So I think if you're an introvert and you struggle with like maybe be a really shy person, it's going to be really tough, or it can be tough to really put yourself out there. So just to recap, education, just the way things were being taught in the US, my skin color, and loneliness, I think were some of the biggest ones for me.
Yeah, so one takeaway from me is actually the learning difference.
Yeah.
For example, in Nigeria, where most people are particular about your grades, and over the way, a lot of people are particular about what you actually learn or the skills you've acquired. So my next question will be: everybody knows there are several opportunities available, like outside Africa than within Africa. So how did you come across these opportunities? What is them, and how did you actually make the most advantage of them?
Yeah, that's a good one. How did I make? I'm actually going to refer back to my notes because I had a couple of things written down. So I think one thing that really helped me, I think many people, or I won't call it a mistake per se, but I think I've seen a couple of like students when they come into a new place, they come into a new environment, there's this eagerness to like find opportunities, like, oh, and I'm not saying that's bad, but I think people should be able to take a step back and actually be more intentional about finding community. Because what I've realized is my community led me to my opportunities. So, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. So there was a time when I was looking for scholarships. Actually, that was after my first year. If you know anything about private institutions, they tend to be really expensive compared to like public universities. So, and yeah, it was just really expensive. And I knew that I didn't really want my parents to like, have to, yes, I had gotten some aid from my university as well, but I still felt like a majority of my tuition was still falling on my parents. So I was like, okay, what can I do? How else do I find money and like funding? I got really tired of going to my school's financial aid office and they would always tell me, oh, there's nothing here for you, or you have to take out a loan. I didn't want to take out loans. So I started knocking on other doors. What I did was I would actually talk to people who were friends, who were mentors, and tell them, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking for scholarships within I was very, very specific. So within the tech space, perhaps maybe scholarships for females like me, because I knew that at that time, many companies and many organizations were trying to support women in technology. So I would, just make my request very vocal. And what I realized is while I was also doing my own search and finding opportunities, by just telling people what I needed, they were also looking for me. They became like my eyes and my ears, right? So when they heard something, they were looking out for me. And when they heard something, they would actually tell me what they have been exposed to, what they heard in line with what I've already told them. So that really helped me. That really helped me not to just put all that burden on myself to find opportunities, but to know that I also have a community of people who are also finding opportunities for me, who are also, seeking out things from me that they knew that I would be interested in. It got to a point where I didn't even have to look for scholarships anymore, because someone would just send me a LinkedIn message, or someone would just message me, oh, why do I think you'll be interested in this? Or look at this, check out this link, right? Because again, I really tapped into my community. So that's one way I really made myself more exposed to opportunities, was by telling people, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And if you find anything in that area, please send it my way. I think another thing I really did that really helped me was use LinkedIn. Now, the thing about LinkedIn is I can have a whole different like workshop just for LinkedIn, and I've done a couple in the past. So if it's something that you would want, please let me know. Please let me know, and I would love to I would love to share that. But LinkedIn really helped me to connect with other people. It really helped me. I think the beauty about LinkedIn for me was it exposed me to people outside of my university, right? Like,
I can't hear
if
you.
you go,
What's that? Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
no, it's okay. But LinkedIn really helped me kind of expose me to other people outside my university, and it was great to see other students doing great things. And the good thing about LinkedIn, I kind of think of LinkedIn like just any other social media platform, like Instagram and Twitter. Like, you follow people, right, who you are interested in. Maybe you like their content, you like what they do. So I was very, very intentional about curating my feed on LinkedIn as well, where I was following other students. They didn't have to be in tech. They could be in finance, they could be in pre-med, they could be in law. I think there's beauty in diversity. So I wasn't just focusing on students who were software engineers or product managers. I was actually trying to diversify my network. But what that did for me was it made my feed very diverse. So I could see this opportunity for like an MBA program for undergrad students, and I would see something else about like a scholarship, and I would see just all these different things. Like I was looking at, and even when I would look through people's profiles, I wouldn't just like accept. I would really look at what they've done. So that was actually how I found some scholarships as well, right? I would look at their awards and see, okay, this person actually got this scholarship. I would search, okay, what's the scholarship about? Obviously, sometimes some of them have some citizenship restrictions, where like you have to be from the US. So obviously that sucks. But for other ones that didn't have that restriction, I would just keep tap of all of those different opportunities for the next time that they opened up. So I was really just trying to use LinkedIn to see what other people were doing, and draw inspiration from them. Yeah, I think I don't know if that kind of answers the question, but
Yeah,
is
it
it
totally
okay?
does.
Okay, sorry. Is it okay if I actually get everyone to just put in the chat, like maybe like where they're from, where they're dialing from, what their
Okay.
interest is, if they're in school?
Sure.
Just want to have a gauge of the audience today.
Yes, okay, so to have more engagement, would appreciate if everyone can drop their names or their locations and their career prospects in the chat box, just to drive more engagement. Okay, you're getting messages. Hi, 10.
Please tell us where you're where you're joining
So,
from,
let me also do mine.
or your interest is, if you're in school, if you're in grad school. We'd just love to know where, before we proceed. Also, just want to be sure that I'm curating content. Okay, perfect, awesome. North Carolina. Awesome.
Okay. I see we have someone from regular North Carolina, from Lagos, Nigeria, also from Nigeria, from Westchester University.
Oh my God, that's so cool. That's pretty close to Drexel. So nice. Hi, Chidi. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Adimbola.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. So I think one takeaway away from your what you just said is actually to leverage in community and to
Mm,
actually use LinkedIn. So that will bring me to my next question. Earlier when you were speaking, you mentioned about a couple of places of where you've actually interned. Uh, so where did you actually find out about these opportunities? How were you able to access these opportunities? How did you apply for them?
mm,
What platforms did you use, or were you referred? Can you
mm,
just tell us more about how you got this, so it can help someone who is looking for this sort of internships to actually know which
mm.
direction to look into.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, yeah, absolutely. I think so for me, Drexel University, I think one of the things that makes it very unique is the fact that it is a co-op school. So actually one of the mentors here, I think sure also went to Drexel. So that was actually how I got to know about Africode and just know her as a person. But um, so the way co-op schools tend to work is that um, with other universities, you have like summer break where you could go back home, you could travel, you can do an internship. Most times it's up to the students to decide what they want to do with that break. But with the co-op school, completing a co-op is pretty much an internship, but it's an internship for like 6 months or even longer. Whereas internships tend to be like 10 weeks, 12 weeks, around that 3 month range. So with co-op schools, you are required to complete an internship towards the completion of your degree. So it's not really optional, like you actually have to, unless you choose to drop it for one reason or the other. Maybe you want to graduate early, maybe there's some um, financial circumstances and other things that can really pose as some difficulty to you actually doing these internships. So I think again, coming to a school like Drexel really helped, kind of like it kind of forced me to get an internship, like even if I didn't want to. So at least for a couple of these, or like at least my first three internships or co-ops, I actually used my school system um to to find them. But I know that not every school, has that like opportunity, or maybe like a database of jobs. But I think other ways that students can still find those internships, I would say, is working very closely with your career services, like office or like just a department. Usually they are aware of opportunities. Some schools have affiliations with job platforms. So for example, I'll write a couple in the chat for um at least people that are here or people that maybe plan to be here at some time. Um, so, places like, so Jobwell, okay. So like Jobwell, Handshake, like LinkedIn Jobs, like those kind of places tend to have like a good um, like database pretty much of opportunities. Again, you could also do a quick Google search and Google will also like, provide you with some, but I really prefer some of these other platforms because you can kind of tailor it to student opportunities and internships for students specifically. So that's always like one great way. So like your career services department, these job sites. I also say conferences is a really good way to get um, um, access opportunities because sometimes what you typically see is a company is, let me use for example like Paystack, because I know that's a big company in Nigeria, but like let's say Paystack is at a conference and they would tend to have like either HR professionals or some of their recruiters, some of maybe engineers, product managers, data scientists there, and sometimes they would have a few slots open. Some companies even conduct interviews at the conference itself, right? And could extend you an offer either after or even at the conference itself. So I think that's another really good way. The reason why I personally really love conferences is it kind of gets you in front of the company. Like every other process. You have to like send an application, you have to beat the ATS. The ATS is the applicant tracking system, which sometimes many students and many people's resumes don't get past. Like you have to get past that to at least get your resume visible and seen by someone. But I really love conferences because it gives you that one-on-one interaction. I know, again, because of COVID, many things have been very virtual, but now I think things are opening, back up in person again. So we're really getting that in-person interaction. I really love that because you are able to, many times people as well would also advertise, hey, I'm actually going for this conference, or I'm going for Grace Hopper, I'm going for some, Google Dev, I think it's called Dev Fest or something like that, right? Like, and you get to see, oh, actually, I'm going to be there as well, and you make those connections. That's also one way to just be aware of what's happening. Yeah. So again, I'm just trying to think about things that can help you be aware of those opportunities. I think one other thing I would add is LinkedIn again, but this is more in a different sense. So many times, if you use LinkedIn, you would almost always see, oh, I'm so happy to announce I just got this job. I'm so happy to announce I'm starting this new role, right? Like it's literally always in front of you. But one thing so two things with that is, well, yes, you can congratulate that person and just extend like well wishes. But what that also does is it lets you know the role that the person just got an internship with, right? Most times some people would even tag the hiring manager and the recruiter and all the people that helped them in that process, right? And what that does for you is you can now start to like keep an eye on these people, like keep an eye on these very instrumental people that helped this person get that internship or get that opportunity. But I really love LinkedIn because again, like it's a career platform. Like everyone, most people share their internships or their job experiences. So even just by seeing what people are doing, roles that they have, you get to see, okay, there's actually maybe, for example, you didn't realize that there was a security. So for example, for me, I'm a PM, but I also have a security background and I'm trying to find a role that allows me to blend both interests, right? But I don't think that exists. By seeing someone else maybe get an internship or get a full-time role, I'm now aware that, okay, this actually exists. And, now I just have to maybe reach out to that company and share my interests. So, yeah, I think those are some of the ways that you can go about finding internships opportunities if your school doesn't really have like its own database that exposes you to those jobs and internships. I hope that answers your question. Please let me know.
Yeah. That actually answers a lot of questions or doubts I have in mind. I'm not sure if it does for the same audience. So my next question is quite tricky. I'm not sure if it's best to ask you. So I know a lot of Africans don't have English as their first language, and some of them do, or maybe like they understand a little bit of English. Did you face any form of language barrier, or did you have to relearn basically just language barrier? Did you have any of those encounter, or do you have any experience with anyone that has those issues, and how do you think it's best to overcome such?
Yeah. I think for a lot of schools in Nigeria, like it's taught in English, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I believe. And I know some schools will require like TOEFL or like some of those English IELTS like exam scores, like when you are applying for university. I don't know if this is I don't want to say this is everyone should do this, but I actually was able to get that requirement waived for myself because it didn't make sense that I've been like my last 6 years of secondary school, I had been taught in English. Like, why do I need to prove that I know English? So I literally just got my counselor, my principal, to write a letter to my school saying, hey, this girl or this student has been taught in English for the last 6 years of secondary school, so she doesn't need to take this exam. And my school thankfully did not require me to do that. So I would say if you again have been taught in English for a while, like you're fine. I think with and if you are not maybe very conversant with English, some schools or most schools in the US would require you to take like a basic English course. You call them like electives or like your humanities. So you take like math, English, maybe history, just some basic like electives. I know that some schools tend to have ESL courses. So ESL courses are English as second language courses. So I've seen a couple of students at my university, not just like Africans, but maybe like some Asian students as well, have to take these courses, usually like in their first term, just to be on the same level with other students in the other courses. But I think maybe another aspect of this whole language thing could be accents, and I think sometimes that could be I've seen that be a problem for some people in terms of maybe like their professors are maybe speaking in one way, or they're not very used to, or maybe they are not understood by their peers or by their professors as well. And I don't know, like I personally have not, like I've had people tell me, oh, I talk different, and that's fine. Like, obviously I'm not American or anything, but I if I find that maybe I am struggling to understand my professor, or I would either find like a buddy in that class that I could like maybe walk through, okay, this is like walk through examples, walk through just content together. Or sometimes there tends to be what you call teaching assistants. So teaching assistants are like, they're not exactly the professor for the course, but they're assigned to help you like answer your questions, or like work with you very closely on just getting and doing well in the course. But I would say that if you're noticing like a trend of like either like a language problem, you probably want to talk to an advisor pretty early. I know that some schools will require you to do a like it's like a like an exam you take before you start classes. Let me just put it that way, for them to be able to assess what level of maybe math or what level of English, that you are meant to be put in, right? So sometimes schools require you to do that. But again, personally, like I'm, it's kind of hard for me to say, oh, this is what I did, because I thankfully have not. I've had quite a couple of different professors, but I've not really had any that I've not been able to understand, or I think if anything, the comment I've gotten is, oh, you speak well for an international student. I'm like, what is that? What is that supposed to mean? But again, these are some of these misconceptions that people have about being international, or like living in Nigeria or living in Africa, that you might encounter. But I think all in all, I mean, if you have to take those English exams, please take them. But I would say, like, if you have been taught in English at least throughout secondary school, you should be fine. And if the accent is a problem, I think it's just tapping into your resources on campus, talking to your friends. And if it's a major problem, please get help from like your advisor, or talk to school authorities to see what they can do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I would like to throw the next question to the audience. I don't know if anyone from the audience has a question you would like to ask some lady. Anyone? You can unmute. No, someone speaking. Hi, Adamu. Take the question. Okay, so pending when there's a question, hopefully someone will get to ask a question. So what advice would you give to another students? Like in all, let's say you see you're able to advise a younger version of yourself. What advice would you give? What words did you say actually?
Like for an international student?
For international students, yeah.
Okay.
So there was okay, so maybe I should pen this down, like towards more a better career prospects. What steps should I take to fund international students?
Yeah. Okay. I'll just like go over what I kind of had. So I think the first thing I
You
would
want to share your screen or
okay, let me share my screen. Okay. These are just things that I did. Let me share my screen.
okay.
So, can you see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so these are things that I did. Again, I just had like all of that stuff, so I'm not just gonna jump to the meat of things. So, these are things that personally that I did. I would not say things that haven't worked for me. And I say take this with a grain of salt. Like there might be things that maybe you think you have completely mastered and you don't need like to do. Like that's fine. But just generally things that I did to maximize opportunity that I had as an international student. Um, so the first thing before I jump into have your LinkedIn, work on your resume, all of that stuff is to have a vision. Whether you are thinking of going to school abroad or you are just maybe you're wrapping up secondary school, or high school, and you're about to go to university, I think transitions are so important and they should not be taken lightly, right? So I remember after the summer after I finished, so I graduated like in May or June, and then I was starting school in September. Like that summer, and even before that, I really had to like sit down with myself and really like ask myself certain questions like, okay, why do I even want to go to college? Like, yes, I know it's like the next thing people always tell you, like, once you're done with secondary school, you should, be getting to university. But why do I really want to, go to college? And even when I get there, like, why am I here? Right? What am I hoping to achieve? What else is here for me beyond just getting a degree? Like, I think for me, being very centered on my why made it very, made it easier for me to go about how I was going to achieve that why. So let's say my why was, I want to leave with a degree, leave with a great job, and leave with a community, right? Like, because I was very, really clear on what I wanted and why I was doing this, it now helped me to now know, okay, this is how I'm going to go about achieving that. So I think not many people think about this and people just like, jump into things but I think if you just take a step back and really have a clear vision, that would really help. So how I kind of found my why was looking back at my journey in reverse, right? So I put myself in the shoes, like in my shoes that I'm in now, which is as I'm about to graduate. What would Ledo in 4 to 5 years time want to look back on and see that I've achieved, right? That really helped me to now put things into perspective. So, okay, if I say I want to like, at least have a job or have some experiences, then I must make sure that by maybe my second, third, and fourth year, I'm looking at internships. I'm looking to get experience because I can't just leave that till the end to my final year. That's going to be like really tough for me to get into the job market like that, right? So just having that, really just asking myself, what would future me want to say? Hey, I'm leaving university. This is what I've accomplished. That really helped me. I also was really honest with where I am, right? So coming into the US, coming as an international student, I knew that I needed to do more than my other peers. And when I say my other peers, I mean like my other peers who maybe were born here, or even like my other like let me say like Nigerian American college students as well. Like I knew that I needed to do more, right? There was already a time constraint of like work authorization and just many things that were like restricting me. So I knew that if I really wanted to maximize my time, I didn't just have, I couldn't just go with the flow. I really needed to strategize and to know what I wanted to do. And I think the other thing that last thing that really helped me be centered on why I was doing this was carrying this consciousness of the privilege that I have and all that my parents had sacrificed for me to get here. I think, and I think everyone's upbringing is different. For some people, not. For some people, maybe it was a full ride scholarship that got you here, and that's amazing. But for me, I knew that my parents had really sacrificed a lot. So just knowing that and just constantly reminding myself, like, okay, I'm not just in school for myself. Like this degree is not just for me, right? When I say not for me, I don't mean like my parents forced me to like study a certain thing, but I mean like this opportunity was not just my own. So I really needed to do it justice and to maximize all that was before me. So that's one thing I would say. If you have any questions, please stop me. I'll just breeze through the other ones. Some of them we've already talked about them, so I wouldn't spend too much time. I talked about community already, so I wouldn't even talk much about that. I talked about, well, how I found my community, again, through LinkedIn, clubs and organizations, professors, and just by traveling and seeing what else was outside beyond my university. So this one I think is really important as well. And I say it's to document. You would soon see that your first year could go by and you would almost not remember what you did at all. Like it's almost like, wait, but you're certain that you did certain things, right? And I think it's just so important to journey with yourself, keep track of the things that you do, whether it's things you do in class, things you do at volunteering, extracurricular activities, internships. Like it just makes it so much easier to see how far you've come. And it's also easier for you to be able to tell people what you've done, right? So the first screenshot I have here, this was actually me documenting something I did during my internship. It was like, I used to document like every week, okay, this is what I accomplished. And I would even like put quotes of what people have said just to kind of really make me understand the gravity of this accomplishment, right? Like I was not sharing this with anybody. This was just for my own personal record. So when I eventually went to work on my resume, I wasn't just asking myself, oh, what did I do? Like I really had a list of things to say, hey, this is what I've done. The second screenshot, I feel like it's a bit, I don't think it's so clear. I'm not sure if you're able to see it clearly, but in this second screenshot, what I pretty much have here is a list of my activities. So you can document things for an internship, which is, very specific to that internship, but you can also document things that you've done like as a student. And this was very helpful for me when I was applying for scholarships or applying for programs that needed a recommendation letter, right? I tell people that your professor maybe doesn't know everything that you do until you tell them, hey, this is what I've done. So what I'll pretty much do is when I'm asking someone to give me a recommendation letter, I will attach these documents and attach my resume. So when they're thinking about things to say about me, they have a very detailed like pool to draw from. Pretty much, it's a very detailed bank of experiences to draw from. I would mention the role. I'll mention my tenure, how long I've been in that role, and then a bullet point or two listing out. This is not exactly a resume. These are things that maybe I couldn't add to my resume that I now have in this document. So yeah, again, I would say please keep track of the things that you do. Nothing is little, nothing is wasted, nothing is important, or nothing is insignificant. Sorry. So please just keep track of the things that you do. Mentors, I think it's so important. Like I mentioned, when I found out about AfriCode about 2 to 3 years ago, I knew that I wanted to learn from other people who had walked in the shoe that I'm walking in right now, right? And yeah, I think it's wisdom to just learn from other people, learn from their mistakes, learn from their journeys as well, and see what they've done. I don't believe mentorship is imitation. I think mentorship is for inspiration, right? Like you learn from other people to see what they did and see how you could incorporate that into your journey and into your life. So some ways you can find your mentors: attend events, put yourself out there, look for people who really align with who you're trying to become and where you want to go. So let's say I'm an aspiring software engineer. I probably want to look for people who are already killing it and who are blazing the trail in the software engineering field. Let's say I want to be an aspiring speaker. I want to look for people who are already, speaking on, doesn't even have to be large platforms, but people who are great speakers, who really understand the art of storytelling and sharing your story. And then lastly, I would say be authentic. I think many people just reach out to people and say, oh, can you be my mentor? I think that's a very strange way to approach mentorship. I always say, allow your relationship to grow organically. obviously with more formal applications like Africode, where it's like you are apply for the program, you're paired with a mentor, that's fine. But when you kind of get into that space and you talk to people randomly, don't really ask people to be a mentor. Just continue to grow the relationship, and before you know it, it's like you're addressing each other as mentor and mentee. I already talked about extracurricular activities, so just be active, proactive, see what else is outside your university. There's another world outside just going to classes, which is fine. I'm not saying, skip classes, no, please, but travel if you're able to. I know many people ask me, oh, how do you travel? Because most times you need money. And I say, well, two things. Either you get it from your school. So I would kind of formally apply to my school and say, hey, this is the opportunity I want to get, or this is the conference I want to go for, and this is how it's going to benefit me as a student, and how it's going to benefit, the college or like the department, right? And more often than not, schools want to invest in you and your learning. So, and then if maybe your school is not being, generous, and maybe they're not able to fund you, you could also, some of these conferences tend to have student scholarships that are available. So just make sure that you're keeping an eye out for applications and things like that. Then this is a really big one that I think many people can sometimes lose sight of, is to really try to find problems around you that you can solve. Can you hear me? Am I good? Okay.
Yes,
Okay, perfect. But yeah, I think many times there's probably something about your university or like some department that you're in that you don't like, right? So instead of trying to just overanalyze this problem, why don't you try to see what you can do about that problem? So for me, for example, after my first year, where I noticed after I switched my major from medicine to now being in the tech space, I saw that I was the only female and sometimes the only Black person in my classes. Like that's a problem, right? Like that should not be normal. And while it was sad, like the first couple of weeks, I actually now started vocalizing about my experiences, and I actually found out that one other professor was already trying to tackle this problem by volunteering with specific organizations and just other people in the space working on bringing more awareness, diversity, and inclusion. And that was how I was able to tap in. So I didn't just sit and say like, oh, this is terrible, or am I the only female? Like I was actually now trying to be a part of that solution. And now that I'm about to graduate, I can see how much my department has gotten a lot more diverse. Like now it's very common to see at least 5 females, at least maybe 6 in a classroom. Like you're seeing more representation. And yes, the numbers are not exactly where we want it to be, but there's been huge progress, and that's because myself and other people spoke up and found and tried to be a solution to that problem. So yeah, just look around you. Whatever frustrates you is probably the thing that you're meant to solve. So just be really sensitive to those opportunities. I would say definitely stay curious and tap into the resources that you have. Again, as coming from Nigeria to the US, there are many things I did not know, especially like with immigration and just how it worked, and things that I had to do, things I couldn't do. So it's very, very risky to live based on assumptions. Like you just assume that, oh, I can work full time or I can work part time. You don't want to don't live by assumptions. You really get ask those questions and be really clear on what you can and cannot do. Typically, some schools have an international student office. Those are designated officials who are very thorough and understand the process of being an international student. They guide you from even before you come into the country up until you graduate, and even after you graduate, right? So, those officials are people that you want to keep in contact with. I also really tap into other international students who had gone through their Drexel experience and learn from them. What did they do? What didn't they do? Something I've learned from my school personally is some of these officials in these departments don't really know what they're doing, and they'll tell you, oh, you can't do this. That's why I always say stay curious, but don't always accept no as the final answer. Really try to dig deep and say, okay, is it really true? Because truth is, they are not international like you, right? So they will just tell you what they assume, like what they think is not feasible. But sometimes you really have to like dig deeper and really ask questions and talk to other people to now actually be able to carve out what you wanted to do. So for example, um I was told that I can only do 3 co-ops, which is what I needed to graduate, right? So I didn't need to do any more. And if I wanted to, I could either do 3 or do less than 3, right? Without it affecting my um, work authorization and things like that. But I ended up actually doing 4 internships because I asked the questions. I figured out what was going to be feasible for my program, what wouldn't delay my graduation. But this is something that they would never have told me if I didn't ask and if I wasn't proactive about, finding that opportunity. So please stay curious. And then I think the last thing I'm just going to say before I again open it up to questions is rise above labels and restrictions. Kind of what I was saying in my previous point is as like coming into a new country, and when people know that you're international, they would often tell you, oh, you can't do this, or know that you only have very limited time here, and things like that. But and I'm not saying please respect the law, don't do anything that you're not meant to do, but also understand that you can carve out your journey. You can, just because you're international does not mean that you cannot get opportunities. In fact, many African and Nigerian students I know in this country are blazing the trail and really, just rising above the status quo and what people tell them they can and cannot do. So please don't carry. I think for me, my first year, I was really living this like victim, quote unquote, label, like, oh, I'm international, I can't do this, I can't get scholarships, I can't, even if all I can get to are loans, and just all of these things that were kind of making me live very restricted, until I had to change my perspective and change my mindset to see that there's actually a lot of opportunities for me here, and I might not readily see it, but it's available to me if I ask and build my community and learn from other people. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. Those are things I wanted to touch on that I didn't already touch on. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or you can send me an email if you have other questions. So
Wow,
yeah,
awesome. Thank you so much, Ledo. I think that
no
actually
worries.
sums it's all up. I mean, you shared a lot of insights and a lot of knowledge and good mind for an aspiring international student that can actually like look upon. So on the final notes, does anyone from the audience actually have a question before we round up and end the session? Anyone? I would appreciate if someone can actually ask a question, just to know that we've actually been communicating. You don't want me to call names?
Lady, I want to say thank you so much. This was, I mean, you went above and beyond, and I'm not even surprised because it's you. And so thank you so much for accepting to, be a speaker. And I'm excited for other people to watch this recording as well. People who could not attend. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Sure. Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure. Someone is just joining. Um, Actually, okay. Does anyone else have a question or anything to say before we round up?
Yes, actually, I answered most of the question I have. Thank you, Lado, for
No
you
worries.
broke everything down.
No
Yeah,
worries.
so
I'm
I don't
glad.
think I have questions. Yeah, you covered most of the questions I think I had. So thank you.
Awesome
Yes,
then.
but I'm
Thank you.
glad.
Thank you, Kachi, for speaking up. So on that note, I think we can bring the session to an end. This session is actually live on YouTube, so I'm going to drop the link now into the chat. So in case you joined late or you want to go via any part of the video, you can easily rewatch again. Ledo, we cannot thank you enough for actually coming on board. Thank you for accepting.
Absolutely. I'm so honored. Thank you all so much.
Yeah. One thing that actually inspired me about your story was you used to be an Africode member,
Mentee, yes.
Mentee actually, and to actually see Mentee coming back on board, it's actually inspiring and knowing we are all going places. So thank you once again, Lady. It was nice to
Absolutely.
have you. We hope that
Thank
next
you.
time we call you to talk about another topic, you'll be happy to accept our.
Absolutely. Africa is family. So I'm
Yeah,
always,
no
always,
problem.
always. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. So with this, I'll bring this session to an end. In case you want to reach out to Lady or you have further questions, you can. She shared her Instagram on her LinkedIn earlier. You can just search her and reach out to her. I'm sure she'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you everyone for joining the session. We appreciate your time. So I'll bring the session to an end now. Bye.